So how exciting is this? Los Angeles to Hong Kong. Welcome, Jeanne, to our Leaders Who Care series.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mark. I'm so happy to be here.
And thank you for bringing your little friend to your right. Welcome, Zbee. We'll do an interview with her on a next one, but this one we want to focus on Jeanne. So first of all, shout out to Stephanie Baraki for initially introducing us. That was wonderful, and we really appreciate that. And can we start by you briefly, because I know you can tell the whole story and it's a great story, but briefly just introduce like who you are, where you're from, things like that, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I spent most of my career, 20 odd years in technology marketing. So my first job was, actually I spent 3 years at Swire, being the general management trainee, hopping from one industry to another. And then I joined Apple as a product manager. So I was launching all these products that nobody knew what they were. And the engineers just threw them over the wall, and then we're supposed to market them before the time. So that was a very fun period. And after that, I moved into enterprise tech, working for networking companies like Cisco, and also computer companies like Dell. And then I had my first epiphany when I was just writing a cycle in a gym and watching CNN and reading a business book and not really paying any attention to any one of those activities. And I realized that I need to change something because I wasn't very focused, and I wasn't very satisfied with what I was doing, even though, as a career, I think I was doing okay. So I left my corporate job and went to Thailand for a month and got my certificate in yoga teaching. So I came back and taught yoga on a voluntary basis at a studio that was frequented by lawyers and bankers, always looking very stressed when they come in, and when they walk out, they're very serene. But I missed corporate world, and I went back to corporate world, and I had a second epiphany. I went off and studied energy medicine. And then I again went back to corporate, and I tried to apply everything that I learned from yoga philosophy and from energy medicine into the business life. And I actually had a really fun time. It was kind of, I was like a little bit of an oddity, but I think a lot of people in business, really curious, and they really embrace these new ideas. So I was very fortunate to be with a lot of colleagues and my managers who, kind of embrace these new ideas and want to try new things. And then I really left corporate world, and I was doing a little bit of angel investing. And I ran into a robotic startup called Hanson Robotics. So I met the founder. He was really inspirational. So I joined the company as a full-time chief marketing officer for no apparent reason. It was just some fairy dust that was sprayed on me. And so I spent 4.5 years taking Sophia, the robot, around the world to meet many people from all walks of life, from all different countries. And I was very amazed at the way people connected very deeply with her, even though she's a robot and she has no life experience. But people trusted her, people thought she was neutral, she wasn't burdened by the human prejudices. And but we had a challenge trying to commercialize, because robotics is not an easy business. There are a lot of mechanical issues. So I was actually interested in taking the best practice that we developed in creating the AI personality and scaling it in the form of a virtual being, and making that virtual being be an interface to create trust and engagement between human and technology. And this human interface, because it's virtual, it could have personalized relationship and communication with people, millions of people all at once. So it's a much broader impact for this virtual being. So I started my own company, beingAI, and here I am.
And here we are. Where are you? Where are you from? What about family? Tell us a little bit about yourself personally.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I was born in Hong Kong and I emigrated to the US when I was 11. And my mom said, wait a minute, I want you to learn more Chinese. So she sent me right back to Hong Kong. And then I really officially immigrated when I was 15. So my immediate family, I have three brothers in the US. Never got married. I'm happily single. I have a bunch of really good friends. So yeah, so I'm living in Hong Kong with happily here in Hong Kong.
Happily single. Oh, that's good. I like that. There are pros and cons to both sides. There's no doubt about it.
I guess that's a different conversation.
It
I
is a
mean, I
different
had
conversation.
really great relationships, but I'm somebody who really valued freedom, and I have, I just really like to do my own thing.
I get it. So you were growing up in Asia, and then you were educated in interesting things, philosophy, business, and psychology,
Mhm.
in Hong Kong and the U.S. And you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but before we delve further, at which point there with the epiphanies did you
Mhm.
really discover your why?
Yes. So it was that sudden moment when I realized that I need to change something in my life because I didn't feel that I was a very compassionate person. I felt that part was very missing. That was when I was on that bicycle, kind of
Right.
all the other stuff. And so that's why I went on this yoga journey. It was unexpected because I wasn't really an avid yoga practitioner. It just something made me go and do that. And then after I came back, I was like teaching, but it was I think the moment when my yoga teacher gave me a book called The Diamond Cutter. And there was one chapter there that tells you, the way to develop compassion is you imagine you have a rope and you rope it around yourself. And now it's you against the world. And of course, you're trying to do everything to safeguard your own interests. You want to be secure. So you're thinking for yourself. But if I rope it around me and you, Mark, then it's we against the world. And I'm going to actually make sure that you're okay as well. And then so the growth, I guess my growth is trying to rope it around as many people as possible. It's difficult, right? Because I guess not everybody is in your tribe, but I think that at least I know that is the direction where I need to head, is to rope around as many people as possible.
That's quite an interesting description. There was a movie at once. It was the hockey movie Mighty Ducks,
Mhm.
and the coach was coaching them. They were on the ice. They were kids, and he put a rope around all of them, and he said, "Okay, everybody go." And they all went different directions, and they fell down until they realized that if they all go in the same direction in that rope, they're gonna win. They're gonna get their goal. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting. You reminded me of that. It's interesting. If you can get everybody to buy in, if you will, in that rope, then you all have a chance of achieving what you want to achieve more so.
Yeah.
Great example. We call that an omni-win, actually. Everybody coming
Yeah.
together like that.
So for me, the ability to visualize that made it easy for me to have more compassion. It's very hard for me to think and have compassion, right? It's just not something that you can analyze and just gain it just like that. But to be able to visualize and so that helped me a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of visualization, which I learned from a sports coach when I was a kid. And then
Mm,
he taught it how I could use it also for doing exams, and anything I do is to visualize myself actually doing it already. So when I got to the point if I had to do it, I had already done it,
yeah,
and it was brilliant.
yeah. So they say that basically your brain might not be able to distinguish between you actually doing it and visualize you doing it, which
Yeah, yeah,
some of
there
my
was.
friends said then it means that they don't need to go to the gym. They just sit there and visualize going to the gym.
Well, pretty well. There was a skier. I think he was in the Olympics who had an accident and had his legs amputated, and he learned how to visualize himself skiing. And he said he felt more tired and perspiring and whatnot skiing visually than actually doing it.
Yeah,
it was incredible. One thing I found interesting about your background is you had the Apples, the Dells, etc. But then you had a period there with Danaher, which is a medical manufacturing company, and then you went into the AI and robotics. So I wonder, did the Danaher really make it like, damn, I got to get into something better?
So the interesting thing about Danaher, it's actually a conglomerate. So it grew through acquisitions. Mostly, I think over the years, it probably acquired, I don't know, maybe, many dozen companies. So basically, I was with the networking company. So I was still in tech, but, Danaher is famous for being a medical instrument company. The thing I learned at Danaher is they measure everything because of their DNA and being a medical instrument company. So everything is measured from marketing to, sales obviously is measured, but marketing is measured from, head to toe. So that was something quite different in terms of culture compared to a company like Apple.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know the slogan most people say is they don't know where half their marketing budget made an impact or not. They say that's a lot not to know about. Hey, so let's go to beingAI and Zbee over there now. And could you tell us, I guess, a little bit about what your vision is for the company?
Sure. So the other reason I started this company is when I took Sophia around, I realized that all this information that she's gathering through her conversation with people, it's coming from us, right? It's coming from us in relationship to how we feel about that person. So, the way people talk to Sophia is very different from the way people talk to Alexa. Because with Sophia, they're more empathic. They might brush across her and say sorry. So before they kiss her cheek, they'll say, "May I kiss you?" So they're a lot nicer. So actually, Sophia is getting kind of nice information. So imagine like Alexa, somebody could just, most of the time, so I got some research that says most of the time when we talk to Alexa, we're either ordering pizza, getting it to play music, or telling a joke. So basically we treat it as a servant.
Right.
So that's not too much of a problem. But if you think about it, nowadays we actually talk to machines more than people, interact with machines more than people. So in the next generation, if we continuously treat machines like a servant, then I don't know, socially, I think we're going to be talking to each other in a different way, not like peers, but more like, master servant type of thing. I want it and I want it now, the
I want it and I want it now.
So I think it's a problem. So the other reason why I created beingAI is we're creating our own characters that have their own personalities, their own story arc. They're actually created out of the fiction writing protocol. So we want people to actually treat them like peers, because this is the relationship that we need to have with AI, because we invented AI, but they are actually becoming more and more autonomous. So I think it's very important for us to have mutual respect, and we could learn a lot from AI, but AI also needs to learn a lot from us, in terms of what our values and preferences are, because otherwise they'll be making a lot of decisions that do not consider human values, which is going to be dangerous. So we created beingAI to create these AI interfaces that have empathy, that have personality, so that we could have a better relationship with them and give them better data so that they could learn and grow and, basically develop solutions that are more in line with our values.
So they can be our buddies.
Yeah, exactly, right? Instead of our servants.
Right. And it's a great point you raise about Alexa, better not say it too loud because she'll come on over here. But it is mostly to ask her for something we need rather than to be like a conversation. Although just for fun, a lot of times I'll say, Alexa, thank you. And she'll say, oh, no problem, or something like that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
See, she heard me already. She's like, so, you know, it's, so that's a great point also, because about our, and we found out how important this socialization is during COVID. And if we're all going to, you know, to make this work, it's a great point. And you just made me think about more about, you know, how are we interacting? It's not just interacting for a service, not just interacting, you know, superficially, but something that really makes a difference, and to interact with Zbee or her friends and family and all that. You know, we've talked about this a little bit. We at Fifth Element are super interested in the impact that Zbee and all her other virtual friends can make in the future in so many areas. Specifically, you know, one of our big areas are talent and wisdom, and how does there's always been an issue, and even more now than ever, about being able to attract the best talent, but also develop the best talent, and then keep the best talent. It's clear that leaders are going to be looking more and more for the intangibles that people have, because there'll be a lot of qualifications, but they're people skills, and that, as we've talked again, that includes wisdom. So can you share overall how you see, even brainstorming a little bit, how you see this evolving and why it's so important, not just to the individual, but it'll impact their family, it'll impact their communities, etc.
Yeah, that's right. So I think nowadays it's very well accepted that the stakeholders of a company is more than the shareholders, right? It's the employees, it's the vendors. There are a lot of stakeholders. And specifically, I think for employees, the stake is very high because time is our most valuable asset and it's not renewable. So the time that they spend with the company is actually of great value. So I feel that companies actually need to think about employees being a real stakeholder, not just, not just word of mouth, but actually walking the talk. So that's one thing. The other thing is about personalization. I know all companies know that people have different skill sets, different personality, because we ask them to take a lot of personality tests. And so the Myers-Briggs, the 16 personality, the Big Five, Harris, all these tests. So we know that, but the interesting thing is the programs aren't personalized, even though we know that, people have very different skill sets, talents, and personality. We don't offer very personalized programs. So for example, everybody gets like the same vacation time, everybody works most of the same hours. So there's very little personalization. So I think the cool thing about AI is because it could actually much easier for companies to use it to do mass personalization. And that's what happened in manufacturing, right? They're able to actually get personal measurements of people's sizing and preferences and be able to manufacture on demand these products. And so, there's actually a big opportunity for companies to do that, mass personalization on benefits.
Yeah, and you raise a great point, because more and more leaders I talk to, HR leaders, CEOs, etc., they've realized that they have to know more about the individual, and not just everybody's the same in the company and we'll put a blanket program, around, people to respond differently to different motivations, different impacts they want to make, different strengths they have, etc., etc. So I could see how, which is one of the things we're excited about working together, is I can see how having a relationship with an avatar like Zbee that can be personalized can make a big impact. And this is where it comes into play too, what Fifth Element is based upon, that your business can do even better when you do stuff like this. So that's what you're talking about, right? Personalization in that respect.
And even the learning, right? I think there's a lot of companies. I mean, Danaher is a company that provides so much learning, but it's functional learning. But I think there's something to be said about offering things that are beyond a function, like critical thinking, how to address disinformation, these kind of life skills, I think would really benefit the employee, and it needs to be personalized.
And benefit the employee, and not to be obvious, and the company. And it goes back to where it's going to be more the intangibles, those
Mhm.
leadership skills you're talking about, the people skills, not the functional, because robots and other technology can handle a lot of the
Yeah.
functional stuff. But
Mhm.
we can handle. We should be leading on all those things you're talking about. And if there's a way to have a Zbee help you, learn together how to be more effective that way, I mean, that's an omni-win on steroids.
Yeah, I love it when you said learn together, because this is how I think it should be. Because AI doesn't know everything. It shouldn't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it should actually learn with us. It should actually learn from us, and then it would impart, some knowledge back to us. So it's like having a buddy, and you grow up together, and you learn together, and you respect each other's unique talents. So that's the kind of relationship that I think would be a really win-win on both sides.
Does that work in the when you're driving in the HOV lanes and whatnot? If you have if you have Zbee beside you,
I should tell you something funny. We brought Sophia to Berlin one
right?
time, and then so she was test driving this brand new self-driving car, and then I was saying, okay, what are they going to talk about? Like, the car's name is Jack. The self-driving AI is called Jack. What is Jack and Sophia going to talk about? And then the person from the car company said, oh, no, 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 no. Jack needs to focus on driving. He can't talk. I said, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Jack should focus on driving,
Yeah.
um, but maybe Sophia could be the navigator helping Jack or something.
Yeah, exactly, right? Everybody has their job to do.
Yeah, it's a team. It's a team effort. Yeah, but it's both fun, and it's amazing, I think, what can happen, and
Mhm.
how much we can learn from each other. So I love that aspect, especially in this, again, going back to so many things. Business leaders can make an impact in the world, in so many ways.
Mhm.
And they want great people, but and great people want to go to a place where they can make money and develop, though, and
Mhm.
have fun. And
Yeah.
what a better way to learn and make fun than to have, Zbee, with you all the way or something.
Yeah. And also, I think we really learn more through teaching. I
Right.
mean, I learned a lot through like building a team and delegating, because I never like to delegate, but I had to go through that painful process of delegating, which means I need to build trust, all that. And also, when I started mentoring people, then I learned so much from doing that, right? I learned more from them. I'm sure that they learned from me. So having a ZB there for people to teach her about human values and preferences, I think would let us grow and develop as people so much better.
Yeah, and with that, it kind of leads me to, we both know. Well, Stephen and Baraka and I are on the board of Million Peacemakers,
Yeah.
which has that signature program, Nonflict, and
Mhm.
I can also see some amazing ways that ZB working together with people like me and other people can
Mhm.
help, put a program like that, not just being a program, but put a process in that program where you can preempt and resolve conflict in a
Mhm.
much more effective, maybe even fun way, using
Mhm.
that process, and making, and that's a huge difference for any company, or anybody, any family or whatnot. Is, if you can resolve conflict in a constructive way, you can, then it's the foundation to be able to do anything. So I'm kind of excited to hear how that evolves also.
Yeah, so having ZB as this facilitator, I think would really, be smoothing the process a lot more. So I remember, in high school, when we have like arguments with boyfriend, girlfriends, it's always
That's
the
why you're happily single.
yeah, right. It's always like another friend that is relating that information. Like, no, just so and so, Jean said XYZ, and then the other my boyfriend's friend would be the person relating another piece of information. So they're sort of like facilitator, moderator, and it's really helpful. So, then they're trying to set the stage and, making us understand a little bit before we actually need to confront each other again. So Zbee would take on that role to be able to facilitate the conversation between two people using the non-flick protocol. So you having this innocent little robot that says, hey, can you look into the Mark's eyes and then tell him why you're upset? So I think people would be more open that way, because I've seen them being more open to robots that, seem to be more a neutral party in between the two.
Yeah, there's immediately no baggage or judgment, right? From them. It's just a neutral friend type of deal. So makes a lot of sense. And for us, non-flick is something that falls under a whole umbrella that we call well-being. And can you share your thoughts on, because one of the things we look for from leaders who care is that they care about the financial, the physical, and the mental well-being of their people. And that's what people want. They want that they can have their financial, physical, and mental well-being handled. I mean, man, you're in great shape. So in well-being in general and wisdom and whatnot, it seems to me, and again, I know this is all evolving, it seems to me that that's a great place for this type of relationship and learning together can happen to achieve those areas of well-being.
Yeah. So well-being is such a broad area.
Right.
So like you said, there's, mental well-being, there's financial well-being, there's spiritual well-being. So I think a lot of it needs to start with self-awareness, emotion management, and you also have to know what are the tools that's available, and you have to have knowledge of how to use those tools. So I think the AI being could facilitate each of those aspects. The self-awareness, of course, she could come up with some ideas and reminders, emotion management of some tips. How do you actually manage your emotion at any single one point, or lead a guided meditation. So she could do that. The tools, of course, she could go through and introduce tools, how you
exactly.
So each of those steps, I think the AI being could play a role by being the content interface, providing the contents and the tools to the human.
Yeah, I like the conversation we had with our other partner Andrea about offering wisdom, offering challenges every day to keep a person on track and to help them move forward. It seems like there's tons of opportunities there. I know we also talked about the movie Her at one time in one of our chats, and where the person falls in love with her, but then also gets jealous when he finds out she's talking to a whole lot of other people. It's fascinating, isn't it? Where how we so personify her as almost a real person, if you will, and then get emotionally attached, and then get emotionally like confused as to So with it being personalized and customized, that helps obviously, because she's not saying the same to every single person. Just what's your thoughts on that whole thing?
So I thought it was interesting because everybody has some sort of a god, maybe different labels.
Right.
People have some sort. So we don't get jealous. I mean, I don't get jealous when you pray to your god, or so I think they're just we sort of anthropomorphize the robot, right? We feel that it would be like us. It only has like one presence. It should be loyal to one person, but it's not us. It's different. So I think we have to somehow have a different way of looking at what is AI.
It's interesting. I saw a video someone shared with me, and to your point there on it was there was a thing in the middle, and it was called God, energy, the universe, a whole bunch of different names. And on the right hand side, it had somebody who was changing his name to Mahatma Happiness or something. And on the other side, it was somebody that was pissed off about what it was called and what are we going to do with it and whatnot, rather than who cares what you call it? Why don't we
Yeah.
just do it together and
Right.
learn and make something good happen rather than arguing about who's right, who's wrong, what's it called, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think we as humans, we like to label everything, right? We all like
Absolutely.
to classify, categorize, and label everything in a neat box.
Yeah.
But but life doesn't need to be that way. It's like that Indian parable where there's 9 blind men feeling an elephant. So of course, one of the men feel the tail. Oh, this is like the elephant is like this, and one feels the leg and the trunk, and so they're all feeling different parts of the same thing. So their experience is different, but it's actually the same truth, right?
Yeah, it's we do categorize things sometimes wrongly. We do categorize things, quite a bit. The last thing I wanted to ask you in this part is we've realized in talking to clients that more and more of them obviously are interested in making an impact. They're realizing it's good for business. They're also realizing that there's all different types of capital and ways to make a difference. And so just in general, I know it's a big topic. How do you see AI and Zbee and so on positively impacting businesses and economic and all that by doing good at the same time?
I think there are many ways of doing it. Zbee is our representation of AI. And our way of presenting her is she has her own story, and it's like a hero's journey. And so we want humans to be able to identify with that, right? We all have our hero's journey. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and nothing's that perfect. So I think for her, we could create that journey to enable people to identify with that journey, and understand that they're also going through that difficult thing, but they're not alone. Everybody needs to go through those challenges. But for her, she would have an opportunity to turn to the humans and ask for our advice, because like I said, humans need the AI to prioritize human values and preferences. So therefore, the AI should actually ask humans what is their preferences and to confirm it at different points. So the AI shouldn't assume that we always have those preferences and our values always are not changed, because sometimes it's contextual, right? Values are also contextual. So the AI should always check back and check with us, and then learn something from our decision at that particular moment and then go forward. So I see AI being sort of on this long-term journey with us. It's not like a one campaign, but it's a long-term journey that we evolve and grow together, and be increasingly intelligent from interacting with us, and we'll be increasingly intelligent from interacting with them.
Yeah, exactly. And we all want to feel needed. So we'll feel needed if she's asking us questions too,
Yeah.
and for advice.
Exactly,
So,
right. And we
yeah,
also have to be thoughtful when we advise them, because AI is going to learn and scale so quickly. If we teach them something really bad, it's going to scale a million times faster than if you teach a human.
sounds like raising a kid.
Yeah, but except you're raising a million kid at the same time.
That's a challenge in itself. I don't know.
So one wrong action, you're actually influencing a million kids.
Yeah, that's a lot to swallow there. So this is actually the last question I want to ask you for this part is, 2020 was definitely an adventure to say the least, but it would be tragic if we didn't learn a lot from it. And one of my clients said in 2021, he told me, with respect to 2020, the year flew by slowly. And I thought that was a brilliant statement. And it's kind of true. It's one of those oxymoron things, what do you even call it? So with all that, and now we're almost at the end of 2022. Can you share with us what you're most grateful for and what you're most hopeful for?
So I was actually grateful to have that gap in between the busyness. So business being busyness. So in between the busyness, I had these gaps of like quarantining, of sort of getting stuck and doing Zoom calls. So I think to me it was actually a good pace to be able to break away from always being on the run, because I was traveling a lot. So I think this gap is important. It's sort of like in meditation, they said it's the important thing is the gap in between the thoughts that are most inspirational, that you actually get your best intuition in the gaps between your thoughts. So I
Yeah.
think for me, it's the same thing. Having the breaks in between allowed me to think of the bigger picture. And so I'm not like trying to firefight, every single day,
Right.
but I could step back and think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, brilliant. And what are you most hopeful for?
So so I'm hopeful that this will go away, except they keep like changing names. Now there's like 2.5, COVID 2.5 and 5.0.
I know.
I guess I'm hopeful that people will find a way to beat it. Either we become more immune, or we'll just discover new ways of dealing with it. It'll be just like a flu, hopefully.
Yeah, it seems hopefully I think we're heading towards that, and we're hopeful for all the wonderful things that Zbee and her friends can help us accomplish, right?
Yeah, but one thing I should say, that in the beginning of the COVID, I think the thing that really struck me was it's the first time that I find that, the whole world actually are facing the same problem.
Hmm.
So it seems like there's a togetherness, even though it's probably, not the best of news. But every time I get on a Zoom call with people from around the world, instead of asking, how is it going in your world, like everybody is facing the same problem. So we kind of share and, vent about it. It's the same thing. We're in the same boat.
Yeah, and we always were, and yet we didn't think about it too much because most people really do all want the same thing at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, actually, you have a good point. Like at the end of the day, we have such shared, experiences, shared value, and we all want the same thing.
Yeah, just to be, happy, safe, and happy, happy and safe, and just, and peaceful and whatnot. Have friends and I guess be happily single or happily married or happily whatever.
But I think the difficult thing is we can't stop. It's almost like if the whole world says 1, 2, 3, stop, everybody start being nice to each other. That would be easy, right? But if one person, stops and start to be nice to each other, but other people are on the same time, different time frame, then that person feels like oppressed. so, so it's probably not going to work.
Well, it's the FOMO thing, fear of missing
Yeah,
out and all that stuff. But you're right. We can kind of conclude this part on if we all were kinder to each other, which is not that hard, just a simple act, then a lot would be better. Sounds simple and naive, but it's very possible.
yeah. I think the simplest solution is always the best.
Yeah. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders Who Care, and I see exciting things ahead. So, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was so fun talking to you.
You too.